You say you want to age in peace, but you keep fighting time as if you could beat it. You get irritated by your changing body, it weighs on you not being who you used to be, and you turn every year into a threat. That's the mistake. It's not aging that hurts, it's resisting it. Life doesn't stop so you can adjust. It's like trying to stop a train with your hands. You won't stop it, you'll only hurt yourself. The Stoics knew this. Strength isn't in avoiding change, but in moving with it without losing your center. If this is your first time here, my name is Gabriel, and this is the Stoic Garden. Stay until the end, because today we're going to bring order to your mind with 10 Stoic principles for living happily and strongly in old age. Let's begin. 1. Accepting time without resentment. How many times have you caught yourself looking at an old photo and feeling a quiet anger, as if life had cheated you by changing your face, your energy, your rhythm? You don't say it out loud, but you feel it. And that resentment is dangerous because it disguises itself as nostalgia, when in reality it's resistance. It steals the present while you argue with the inevitable. Worst of all, it makes you believe happiness was back then, when the truth is happiness has always been wherever you were, if you knew how to be there. Imagine time as a house you've lived in for decades. At first you were excited by every room, every novelty, every door that opened. Over the years the house creaks, cracks appear, things don't work the same way. But you are still the owner of that house. The problem isn't that the house ages. The problem is that you spend your time insulting the walls instead of living in it wisely. Whoever fights their own house ends up uncomfortable, even with a roof overhead. Here's the belief that's poisoning you from the inside. Thinking that aging means losing value. That's what you were sold. The idea that you only matter when you produce, when you're fast, when people are watching you. So you become your own judge, measuring your life by standards that were never human. Without realizing it, you start punishing yourself for not being what you're no longer meant to be. That's not realism. That's cruelty toward your own story. The cost of that cruelty is quiet. It's not one big blow, it's daily wear and tear. You grow more irritable, more suspicious, harsher with others and with yourself. You live with an absurd tension. You want to go back, but there is no going back. That tension steals your sleep, your patience, your gratitude. And in the end, it leaves you with a bitter old age, not because of the years, but because of the constant fight against them. The Stoics held a simple and brutally freeing stance. Nature changes, and you change with it. Marcus Aurelius didn't speak of time as a tragedy. He spoke of it as a law. No insult can break it, no complaint can stop it. Dignity lies in moving along with it without turning it into drama. Acceptance isn't surrender. Acceptance is stopping the waste of energy on a lost war, so you can use it to live well. And living well at this stage is an act of clarity. It's looking at your years with respect, not reproach. It's saying, yes, I'm not the same, and that doesn't take away my value. It gives me depth. It's allowing yourself to shift priorities without guilt. It's letting go of the need to prove, to rush, to compete. Mature life doesn't need display. It needs coherence. And you can choose that coherence today without explaining anything to anyone. In the end, time won't ask your permission to move forward, but you can decide whether you move forward with resentment or with dignity. And that decision changes everything. 2. Choosing calm as a daily discipline. Think about those days when you wake up and, even though nothing serious has happened, you're already tense. Your body is stiff, your mind anticipating problems, your heart racing out of habit. It's not that life is attacking you, it's that you've grown used to living on alert. And over the years, that becomes a kind of silent illness. It doesn't kill you all at once, but it slowly dries you out from the inside, like a plant that never gets watered. You see it in the small, everyday things. You get impatient in line, irritated by a comment, unsettled by a noise, anxious over a slight change of plans. You react as if everything were urgent, as if everything were a threat. Then you wonder why you're tired, why you sleep poorly, why your mood doesn't hold steady. It's not a lack of strength. It's an excess of sustained tension, like carrying a backpack you never take off. What you don't want to admit is this. Many times you choose inner conflict because it gives you the illusion of control. Being tense makes you feel prepared, as if calm were carelessness. But it's not preparation, it's habit. And a habit isn't truth. Your tension isn't a sign of responsibility. It's a sign that your mind has learned to live without rest. That's not maturity, that's wear. Behind that tension, there's often a hidden need. Wanting the world to behave the way you expect. Wanting your family to respond the way you want, your body to obey, life to be fairer, time to slow down. And when it doesn't happen, you get angry inside. Not because you're bad, but because you still believe your peace depends on everything outside being in order. That's the perfect trap, because the outside is never fully in order. Stoicism offers a sober way out. Calm isn't a reward, it's a stance. Epictetus would put it plainly: if you place your peace in external things, you're handing over your freedom. Calm is born when you distinguish what depends on you from what doesn't. Your judgment depends on you. Your response depends on you. The way you speak to yourself depends on you. Once you understand that, life stops pushing you like wind against an open door. So the invitation is simple, but it requires character. Notice yourself when tension rises, not to blame yourself, but to become aware. Ask quietly, is this real danger or just habit? Am I reacting to what's happening or to what I fear might happen? You don't need complicated techniques. You need honesty. Calm is trained like posture. You correct it each time you notice yourself slouching. You also have the right to lower the volume, to not respond immediately, to not carry everything, to not argue out of pride, to not justify yourself in order to be at peace. Calm doesn't make you weak, it makes you precise. It allows you to choose better, speak better, withdraw when necessary, set firm boundaries. And in old age, that's real strength, a strength that doesn't make noise but sustains. Because the one who masters their calm doesn't depend on the day to be well. They depend on their character, and that is freedom. 3. Separating control from the need for control. How many times have you caught yourself trying to fix everything, even when no one asked you to, even when you no longer have the strength to carry that weight? It's not responsibility, it's need, and the need for control feels like an inner urgency that won't let you rest, as if letting go were dangerous. In old age, that urgency becomes more obvious because your body no longer tolerates so much tension and your mind no longer has the patience for useless battles. What you once masked with activity now shows up in your shoulders, your sleep, your way of facing the day. When you try to control what cannot be controlled, life becomes a treadmill. You run without moving forward. You push conversations, push other people's decisions, push timelines that are no longer yours. It's like squeezing water in your fist. The harder you press, the more it slips away. And the absurd part is that you wear yourself out over things that will follow their course anyway, with or without your tension. Your family will change, the world will stay noisy, your body will do what it does. The control you seek outside doesn't exist. What does exist is your stance toward what happens. You were taught to believe that if you're not on top of everything, it all falls apart. That your value lies in being useful, in holding things together, in anticipating, in solving. And without realizing it, the need for control disguises itself as being strong. But often it's not strength. It's fear of being sidelined, fear of not being needed, fear of losing your place. So you involve yourself in everything, comment on everything, worry about everything, and end up living with a tight chest, as if the world were a messy room you alone must organize. The hidden cost is brutal and silent. Constant tension that you now consider normal. Loss of clarity because a controlling mind doesn't observe, it monitors. Disconnection from yourself because you're so focused on the outside that you don't even know what you feel. And anxiety disguised as discipline, the kind that says, I just want everything to be okay, when what you really want is to never feel discomfort. But discomfort is part of life. The difference is whether you move through it with dignity or rigidity. Here the Stoic shift restores your center. Epictetus said it simply, some things are up to you and some are not. Your effort, yes. Your judgment, yes. Your response, yes. But other people's behavior, the passage of time, the changes in your body, no. Marcus Aurelius repeated it as a daily reminder. Peace begins when you stop fighting reality. That's not resignation. It's intelligence. It's refusing to waste energy on the impossible so you can use it on what matters. And what matters at this stage is acting with clarity and letting go with respect. It's not about becoming indifferent. It's about no longer confusing control with love, control with care, control with responsibility. Notice when your mind demands guarantees. Notice when you get irritated because something doesn't follow your plan. Lower the inner volume and ask yourself, without drama, does this depend on me, or am I just trying to dominate it to avoid uncertainty? That question asked honestly loosens your chains. Or, when you separate control from the need for control, you recover something you thought was lost: air. And with air comes calm, patience, real strength. What depends on you is sustained better when you stop wrestling with what doesn't. 4. Reducing desires to live lightly. You've been led to believe that living well means adding more things, more plans, more obligations, more just-in-case worries. But with age, you discover something uncomfortable. The more you accumulate, the heavier you move. And I'm not only talking about objects. I'm talking about expectations, comparisons, the idea that you should be somewhere else with another life, another family, another body. That should is an invisible backpack that weighs more than any suitcase. And the worst part is that you put it on yourself every morning. In daily life, it shows up in small impulses that seem normal. Wanting to be right in conversations that don't matter. Needing recognition for what you did years ago. Expecting others to repay you with attention for what you gave them in sacrifice. Wishing the past would return, or that the future would guarantee your peace. And each desire, once it becomes a demand, steals your calm. Because you're no longer wanting something, you're needing it. And when you need it, you start bargaining your peace with the world. Noise and hurry distort this dimension in a subtle way. They make you believe that if you don't desire more, you'll fade. That if you stop expecting more, you're resigning. But that's confusion. Reducing desires isn't renouncing life. It's renouncing dependency. It's stopping the demand that the outside complete you. Old age, lived with clarity, isn't a stage for chasing. It's a stage for refining, for keeping what matters and letting go of what only occupies mental space. Think of an old ship that has weathered storms. If you load it with unnecessary cargo, it sinks more easily. If you lighten it, it sails better. Your mind works the same way. Every untrue desire becomes ballast. Every comparison is a stone. Every rigid expectation is a rope tying you down. You don't need more weight to prove you're still alive. You need more lightness to live with strength. The Stoics were clear. It's not the one who has little who is poor. It's the one who needs much who is enslaved. Seneca said it plainly because he knew unlimited desire breeds anxiety. And in old age, anxiety doesn't just unsettle you, it weakens you. Not because desire is evil, but because disordered desire makes you dependent, and dependence makes you fragile. Strength doesn't come from having everything. It comes from being able to be well with less. The invitation is sober. Notice which desires are stealing your sleep, which expectations make you argue inside, which comparisons quietly embitter you. You don't need a perfect life to be at peace. You need a mind that doesn't cling to what it cannot hold. And when you release the excess, something strange appears at first. Silence. A silence that can feel unsettling because you're no longer chasing anything. But that silence is space to breathe. When you reduce desires, life becomes clearer. Not because everything improves outside, but because you stop demanding that the world be different in order to allow yourself to be well. And that lightness doesn't take away your strength, it returns it. 5. Caring for the body as a personal duty. You may tell yourself it doesn't matter, that at this age it's normal to live with pain, fatigue, stiffness, but deep down you know that often it's not just age, it's accumulated neglect. And the most delicate part is this: you don't neglect your body out of ignorance, you neglect it out of attitude, as if caring for yourself were a luxury, as if honoring your limits were selfish, as if your value lay in enduring no matter what. That idea makes you look strong on the outside, but it slowly breaks you within. This neglect often follows a simple pattern. You stay rushed even when there's no real hurry anymore. You eat quickly, sit poorly, breathe shallowly, move too little, go to bed with your mind still racing. Then you're surprised to feel heavy, inflamed, drained. It's not time punishing you. It's your body responding to years of normalized tension. The body doesn't negotiate with excuses. It reflects habits. And in old age, that reflection becomes more immediate, more visible, more honest. The root isn't always physical. Often it's emotional. You care for everyone but yourself. You worry about others but don't attend to your own needs. You swallow what you feel, but your stomach hears it. You demand mental calm while living with a clenched body, as if your jaw could hold your life together. That's not discipline, it's fear. Fear of seeming weak, fear of admitting you need rest, fear of recognizing that your energy is no longer infinite, and if you don't protect it, no one will. Imagine your body as an old house that can still be solid, but no longer tolerates unnecessary blows. If you slam doors, ignore leaks, never air it out, it deteriorates faster. But if you maintain it, repair it in time, inhabit it with respect, it holds you up. You don't need a new mansion, you need a dignified house. Your body is that house. Living poorly inside your own house is a slow form of sadness because it steals your mobility, your spirit, your presence. Accumulated wear isn't felt only in your bones. It shows in your character. When your body is unwell, patience shrinks, irritation rises, the mind turns more negative. You begin interpreting life through pain, and that's the danger. Not pain itself, but the identity you build around it. Suddenly everything feels heavy, everything annoys you, everything seems uphill. Old age stops being a stage of wisdom and becomes a stage of survival. No one imposes that on you. You allow it. The inner shift comes when you understand that caring for your body isn't vanity, it's responsibility. Marcus Aurelius, no stranger to hardship, reminded himself that the mind needs a sound instrument to act with virtue. Not to show off, but to sustain character. Stoicism doesn't just ask you to complain less, it asks you to act rightly, and that includes respecting your body as part of your duty. You can't demand clarity from a mind housed in a neglected body. So slow down and listen to the simple things: how you breathe, how you sit, how you walk, how you sleep. You don't need to become someone else. You need to stop treating yourself as indestructible. Notice where you tense up, where you force, where you demand too much of yourself. Rest isn't laziness, it's maintenance. And maintenance is what allows you to remain independent, present, steady, without depending on others for the basics. If you want to grow old with strength, understanding principles isn't enough. You must sustain them with a body that isn't at war with you. Caring for yourself isn't indulgence, it's a concrete form of dignity. 6. Guarding the mind from negative impressions. You think your mind just thinks, as if it were a neutral space where ideas simply pass through. But it isn't neutral. Your mind is a doorway, and every day you leave it open to news, complaints, arguments, and dark memories, then you're surprised to feel heavy. Aging doesn't make you fragile by itself. It makes you more sensitive to what you allow in because you no longer have the same margin to waste energy on emotional junk. You see it in small details. A comment lingers in your head for hours. A phone call unsettles your mood. A news story ruins your afternoon. A visit leaves you uneasy and you don't know why. It's not weakness, it's that your mind still reacts as if it must process everything, as if every impression deserves your full attention. Live like that, and you end up exhausted without having done anything physical. What you may not want to admit is this: sometimes you seek out those impressions. You move toward drama like someone warming their hands by a fire in winter. It heats you for a moment, distracts you, makes you feel connected, but it also contaminates you. A mind fed on irritation begins to see life through a filter of irritation. Over time, that becomes a tense character you no longer recognize as a choice. Often there's a silent emotional need underneath. When there's emptiness, the mind fills it with noise. When there's fear, it covers it with information. When there's loneliness, it looks for conflict to feel alive, and without noticing, you hand your peace to things that don't build you up. The world isn't necessarily too harsh. You're just not protecting your attention, and attention is your most valuable muscle at this stage. Imagine your mind as a garden that has already borne fruit. If you let weeds grow every day, it doesn't matter how rich the soil is, the garden turns rough. Negative impressions are those weeds. They grow quickly, take over space, and if you don't pull them out, they start to look normal. The danger is when you stop noticing them, when complaint becomes your default tone and pessimism your realistic way of speaking. The wear is cumulative. It steals your presence. You're here, but thinking about what bothered you. It steals clarity. Everything is filtered through an old wound. It steals simple joy. Your mind is busy defending a position. Most sadly, it steals your quiet dignity. the kind you can sense in someone at peace with themselves without saying a word. The turning point comes when you grasp something uncomfortable. The problem isn't what happens outside, it's how long you let it stay inside. What you listen to, repeat, watch over and over becomes your inner climate. You might say, "That's just how I am," but in truth it's how you've trained yourself. A mind trained to react becomes a prison. A mind trained to observe becomes a refuge. The Stoics had a word for this: impressions. The first thing that hits you isn't reality, it's the impression reality leaves on you. Epictetus insisted that freedom begins when you don't automatically believe everything that appears in your mind. This isn't about denying hardship, it's about not surrendering your judgment instantly. Between the impression and your response there is a space. If you guard that space, it becomes your power. Treat your attention the way you treat your money, with respect and limits. I'm not asking you to disconnect from life. I'm asking you not to live invaded. Notice which conversations leave you feeling dirty inside, which content unsettles you without adding anything of value, which memories you revisit only to punish yourself. You don't need a life without problems. You need a mind that doesn't become a dumping ground for everything around you. When you make that adjustment, your inner experience shifts immediately, even if the world stays the same. You feel lighter, more self-possessed, less reactive. Peace stops being an accident and becomes a consequence. Guarding your mind isn't isolation. It's choosing what deserves entry into your life and what does not. Old age doesn't need more information. It needs more discernment. 7. Setting boundaries without guilt or explanations. At this stage, you should already know this, but it's still hard. Saying no makes you tremble inside, as if you might lose love, respect, or your place. So you give in, stay quiet, endure. Not because you want to, but because you were taught that setting boundaries is harsh, and you don't want to be that person. But the truth is simpler. A boundary isn't aggression. It's hygiene. And without emotional hygiene, life fills up with resentment. In daily life, it shows up almost invisibly. You accept visits when you're tired. You give your time when you need rest. You swallow hurtful comments to avoid making a scene. You answer messages out of obligation, not desire. All of it accumulates like a hidden bill no one sees, but you pay with your energy. Then you notice yourself irritable, distant, impatient, and you don't know why. It's because your calm is being used by others as if it were endless. Noise and automatic reaction distort this dimension with a common trap. You tell yourself, it's not worth it. Better to stay quiet. What's the point? And yes, sometimes it's not worth arguing. But there's a difference between avoiding conflict and abandoning your dignity. When you never name your limits, the world assumes you don't have any. And once it assumes that, it pushes a little more each time, not necessarily out of malice, but out of habit. Think of your life as a house with doors. If your door is always open, anyone walks in, anyone comments, anyone leaves their mess. Then you clean up in silence and even feel guilty for wanting to close it. A boundary is simply closing the door when needed. It's not punishment, it's a clear signal that your space matters. And your space matters because it's where you breathe, think, recover. Stoicism brings sobriety here, not drama. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that your duty isn't to please, it's to act with integrity. And integrity includes not allowing abuse, not allowing invasion, not allowing your peace to become bargaining currency. A boundary spoken calmly is an act of virtue. Justice toward yourself, temperance in speech, strength to hold it without shouting. Pause and notice where you're yielding out of fear of discomfort. Notice what you're doing out of habit rather than conviction. You don't need to justify your rest. You don't need to explain your no. You don't need to convince anyone that your time has value. If something breaks you inside, there's a boundary you're not protecting. And protecting it doesn't make you cold, it makes you healthy. A boundary without guilt is a quiet declaration of dignity. 8. Practicing gratitude without nostalgia. There is a way of remembering that lifts you up, and a way of remembering that pulls you down. Most people confuse the two. You look back and say, those were the days, but inside it's not just affection, it's a sting. As if the present were inferior, as if your real life belonged to another stage. Then gratitude becomes contaminated. You no longer appreciate what was, you miss it with a soft anger. And that soft anger steals your day. Silently, this becomes a constant inner dialogue. You compare the old house to the current one, your past body to your present body, your past family to your present one. You say you're grateful, but you remain stuck in the old scene. When someone speaks to you about today, you answer from yesterday, not out of bad intention, but because that's where you feel safe. The problem is that the safety of the past doesn't nourish you, it only numbs you. The common misunderstanding is thinking that loving the past obligates you to live in it, as if letting go were betrayal, as if accepting the present were settling. That's why many older adults carry an elegant sadness, a well-combed sadness. They fulfill their duties, smile, do what's expected, but inside they feel the best has already passed. That thought is a slow poison because it turns every day into a comparison you cannot win. Mental hurry also distorts this. When the present feels fast, when the world changes without asking you, your mind seeks refuge where everything once felt in place. That's natural. But if refuge becomes residence, you lose yourself. It's like rewatching a beautiful film until you forget to live. Memory should give you meaning, not replace your current experience. When it replaces it, you become a spectator in your own life. The Stoic shift is sober. Be grateful without attachment. Seneca warned that suffering in advance and clinging to what has already been are both ways of losing the present. Stoic gratitude is recognition. It says, that happened, it shaped me, it was valuable. And precisely because it was valuable, I don't need to relive it as a crutch. I honor it best by using its lessons to stay awake today. When a memory comes, don't use it to judge the present. Use it to give thanks for what it gave you, then return. Return to your body, your breathing, the conversation at hand, the afternoon that is still here. Gently ask yourself, am I remembering to learn or to escape? That question doesn't accuse you, it guides you, and with guidance the mind relaxes. When you make this adjustment, your inner experience shifts. You stop feeling that life has left you and start feeling that life has transformed. Peace no longer depends on everything resembling the past. It depends on your ability to inhabit what is without despising it. And that restores something that seemed lost, presence. Real gratitude doesn't look back to weep. It looks back to walk forward more steadily. 9. Turning solitude into inner strength. There comes a point in old age when the noise fades, the schedule empties, and the house grows quieter than you imagined. Many become frightened there, confusing solitude with abandonment. You tell yourself you no longer matter as much, that you're no longer needed, that the world moved on without you. But the truth is both more uncomfortable and more liberating. It's not that the world left you behind, it's that it's giving you a space you didn't have before, and you don't yet know what to do with it. Solitude seeps into daily life without drama. It's not a blow, it's a series of moments. The phone that doesn't ring, the long Sunday, the unplanned afternoon, the sense that no one looks to you to decide. And because you don't want to feel that, you fill the time with anything. Television that doesn't nourish you, conversations that exhaust you, social media that irritates you, worries that aren't even yours. Anything to avoid sitting with yourself and listening. The subtle truth almost no one sees is this. Solitude hurts more when you don't get along with yourself. If your mind is a hostile place, silence feels like punishment. If you speak to yourself with reproach, being alone feels like judgment. If you see yourself as less, isolation feels like a sentence. It's not the absence of people that breaks you, it's the presence of an inner voice you don't know how to calm when distractions are gone. Imagine your inner life as a room. Some people enter and find a chair, a window, air, order. Others enter and find clutter, unfinished business, noise, things scattered everywhere. Solitude only reveals how that room is kept. If it's chaotic, you won't want to stay. If it's calm, it supports you. Old age, whether you like it or not, invites you to look at that room honestly. And that's an opportunity, not a sentence. Living unconsciously means depending on stimulation to feel alive. You need company to avoid thinking, noise to avoid feeling, movement to avoid facing what matters. Living from a new stance is different. You no longer try to fill the void, you learn to inhabit the space. Inner strength isn't becoming cold, it's becoming sufficient. It's being able to be with yourself without urgency to escape, without asking others to save you from silence. The Stoic voice here is quiet, not theatrical. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that you can retreat within at any time, because your true refuge is inside. Not to hide from the world, but to return to it with greater clarity. Used well, solitude becomes a workshop of character. In that workshop, your judgments are sharpened, your emotions cleared, your priorities arranged. Not because you become perfect, but because you stop living scattered. When silence appears, pause and don't rush to fill it. Notice what arises when there's no entertainment. What thoughts visit, what fears try to take over, what memories claim the afternoon. Not to analyze yourself anxiously, but to know yourself calmly. If you sit with yourself respectfully, solitude stops being an enemy and becomes a teacher. And a teacher like that, at your age, is priceless. Solitude doesn't take life from you. It returns you to yourself. 10. Living each day with purpose and integrity. The saddest part of aging isn't losing speed, it's losing direction. You wake up, do the basics, get through the day, distract yourself, and the hours slip by. Then comes the quiet question many avoid. What am I living for now? I'm not talking about grand goals or youthful dreams. I'm talking about real purpose, the kind that steadies your gaze when you no longer need to prove anything. You see it in small details: how you greet others, how you listen, how you respond when contradicted, what you do with a free hour, what you choose when no one is watching. Integrity isn't a moral speech, it's a way of moving through life without betraying yourself. And purpose isn't a perfect plan, it's a daily intention. Today I will live in a way that respects who I am. Today I won't poison myself with complaints. Today I won't act from pride. Today I won't waste my presence. Most people miss a key subtlety. When there's no purpose, the mind invents substitutes. It obsesses over what's missing, what others are doing, past mistakes, future fears. Without direction, any thought can grab the wheel. And in old age, that becomes especially dangerous, because time feels shorter and anxiety moves faster. It's not that you have less life, it's that you can no longer afford to live without direction. There's no room left for self-deception. Think of a lighthouse on the shore. The sea can be rough, the sky can change, ships can pass by. The lighthouse doesn't control the sea, but it keeps its light on. Purpose is that light. Integrity is how you keep it lit, even when no one applauds. You don't need grand gestures, you need consistency. Old age grows strong when you stop living on impulse and start living by principles again. The contrast is clear when you look without romanticizing it. From the unconscious pattern, each day is reaction. You respond to messages, moods, bodily discomfort, others' opinions. From a new stance, each day is choice. You choose how to speak to yourself, what to allow, whom to invest your energy in, which behavior represents you. That choice doesn't take away freedom. It restores it because you're no longer a slave to whatever happens outside. Here, Stoicism is simple and firm. Seneca insisted it's not that we have little time, but that we waste much of it. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that the only life you have to live is the one you're living now, with the character you choose now. This isn't meant to guilt you, it's meant to return responsibility to you. Purpose doesn't fall from the sky, it's practiced like calm. Look at your day as if it were a unique coin, one that won't repeat. Not to live in fear, but to live with presence. Ask yourself with quiet honesty, what action today would let me go to bed feeling dignified? What conversation can I have more truthfully? What small decision aligns me with myself? You don't need to overhaul your entire life. You need to stop betraying yourself in small ways, because that's where character is formed. Living with purpose isn't about filling your schedule. It's about sustaining your integrity, even when the day is empty. You arrive at this stage with a truth no one can dispute. Time doesn't come back, but you can return to yourself. Not to your younger version, not to an ideal version, but to your essential one. When seen clearly, old age isn't a slow decline, it's a purification. The masks fall away, the rush fades, many excuses drop. What remains if you work on it is a life cleaner on the inside, a life where peace isn't luck, it's character. What changes isn't the world, you change. The way you interpret what happens shifts, the way you respond shifts. Your relationship with your body, with solitude, with outside noise shifts. This transformation isn't flashy, but it's visible. It shows in a steadier gaze, a calmer voice, your ability to not react as before. Lasting happiness doesn't come from having everything. It comes from no longer depending on what you cannot hold. Now, a simple question without drama. Will you keep living as if each day were a formality, or will you live it as an act of dignity? No one is coming to organize your mind for you. No one is coming to hand you purpose, calm, or integrity. You can blame life, your body, your family, your past, but in the end, there's only one thing you truly govern: your inner stance. And that stance shapes how your years feel, one by one. Old age doesn't take away your strength. It removes the unnecessary if you allow it. If you're walking this path, you're not alone. I've also had to learn to let go of pride, to set boundaries, to choose silence, to stop arguing with the inevitable. This isn't mastered in a week. It's practiced daily, with stumbles and adjustments. It's not about perfection, it's about coherence. And when you sustain that coherence, even hard days feel lighter, because you're no longer fighting yourself. If this content brought you value, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss upcoming videos. And I want to ask you something very specific. Comment the phrase, "I am a Stoic," along with the name of the country you're listening from. I love knowing which parts of the world this community of Stoics, men and women alike, is growing from each day with calm, strength, and dignity. I'm Gabriel, and this is the Stoic Garden. 2 recommended videos will now appear on your screen to help you go deeper into this way of living with clarity. Choose one, stay on the path, and keep strengthening your mind with the same sobriety with which you want to live your years.